You can't replace part of the brain. Like, you
treat them the same.
A source of truth for the medtech industry.
Coexists with the province.
Robot understands things automatically.
Number one show in the medtech industry.
So Stryker got ahead of that and changed in the 90s, built $1 billion company that held up high, a lot of things.
State of MedTech with your host, Omar M. Khatib. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. You know this man. He's been a guest on the show, one of my favorite companies. I love all the companies, but this one in particular, I love for a variety of reasons. That's Dermasensor. Cody, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. Doing well.
Absolutely. Hey, and big congratulations, because I was looking at Time Magazine yesterday because they had the best innovations of 2024, and I opened it up and right there, Dermacensor. So big congrats on that, man. It's really exciting for you and the team.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're really honored and proud, and it's kind of still feels a bit surreal, even though we kind of knew about it for the last month. But now it's really exciting, especially after 8 years, $25 million R&D process. It's great to see not just the company and our investors excited about what we're doing, but Time, and we've had their Nature completely independent of us, right? No physician collaborators, anything. There's been 2 articles just in Nature in the last few months, so it's cool to see the popular media, but also kind of scientific community excited about what we're doing.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And, for some of the audience who's just learning about you guys, give us a quick tagline of who is Dermasensor and what do you guys do? And then let's jump into some of the commercial learnings, because it's a fascinating business model that you guys have. So I'm excited to kind of dive into that. But for those who are just learning, what is Dermasensor? What does it do? Quick commercial break. If you're a medtech startup founder or an investor, I want you to think about something. Imagine a place where deals actually get done. You're not just getting lost in the chaos of a crowded convention hall. A place where it's a who's who of medtech, where the best minds are coming together, not just to network, but really shape the future. That, to me, is LSI. And in 2025, LSI USA is back. This past year, they brought over 1,500 executives from innovative companies, investment firms, venture capital, etc., all together. And they're doing it once again. From the investment side, they have people from family offices, global strategics, private equity firms, venture capital offices. And then from the startup side, especially spanning all kinds of exciting areas, from cardiovascular to neurology to AI, robotics, and more. LSI is more than just a conference. It's a curated experience where real business takes place in a world-class venue, being the Waldorf Astoria in beautiful Dana Point, right on Monarch Beach. Now, why LSI? Well, they do things differently. For me, they're the epicenter of medtech, where they offer a platform for emerging leaders to present, pitch, and partner with the best. And with more top funds attending than ever before, LSI 2025 is going to be, in my opinion, probably the highest investor to attendee ratio yet, meaning more meaningful connections with venture capitalists, private equity firms, angel groups, and more. Plus, for nearly 2 decades, LSI has really been a cornerstone of the medtech ecosystem. Their events, market intelligence, and media reach have empowered leaders to make strategic decisions, drive innovation, and create better outcomes for patients around the world. It's more than just a conference. It's about challenging convention and catalyzing innovation. Plus, I got to give a shout out to the LSI team. Some of the best panels I've ever seen all happen at LSI. So if you want to make sure to secure your ticket, because again, this is a limited conference in a limited venue, go to lsiusasummit.com and immediately book your ticket. Go ahead and get your ticket. And if you're a startup CEO, I can't emphasize this enough. Your greatest ROI is probably going to come from applying to present, because you're going to get a beautifully produced video, a lot of exposure, and more importantly, the opportunity to refine your pitch. So go to lsiusasummit.com, and when I see you at the summit next year, be sure to say hi. Now, back to the show.
Sure. Yeah, so Dermasensor is a automated skin cancer detection device. Put another way, for the first time in the United States, now all 1 million physicians can provide their patients with an immediate quantitative result for skin cancer risk. So you've never before been able to go. And we're really focused on non-specialists, non-dermatologists, doctors that aren't already experts in evaluating skin. So never before have you as a patient been able to walk into your family medicine practice, your internal medicine doctor, your gynecologist, and point at a lesion, or they notice a mole that's concerning and get actual risk result for skin cancer, right? It's always eyeball it, like, oh, I think it looks okay, right? And,
Right.
by definition, they're not specialists, they're not experts at that. And they'll be the first one to tell you, yeah, like skin lesions are tough. I often don't feel that comfortable with it, or I just default and refer to be safe. And so PCPs are doing 30 to 50 referrals right now for every one melanoma. So their hit rate is 2 to 3%. Dermatologists are like 5 to 10 times higher than that. And dermatologists detect a lot more skin cancer too. So that's really what our focus is, bringing the eyes of dermatologists or assessment capabilities and putting that in the hands of hundreds of thousands of frontline providers.
Yeah, and that's what I really love about what you guys do, because essentially I think the future, especially from an investment thesis, is this idea that primary care is the front line of medicine. They're going to see the largest patient volumes. The problem with primary care is that they're not specialists. And so again, one of the reasons why I love Dermasensor is that it's a great example of really innovative hardware that uses software to scale the skills of a specialist through primary care, right? Problem though, and this is where I think the product and innovation has to make sense for adoption, is that primary care physicians, I love them, but they're not exactly used to having a lot of high tech stuff in their office, right? So they're almost like the IT department of the hospital. For forever, the IT department of the hospital never really got any attention, but then the introduction of SaaS, and now IT is like one of the most important places to sell to. So IT is like very new to that. And I think now with primary care is like, there's this idea of scaling medicine, where they're getting all, like, primary care physicians never got attention from med tech companies. Usually it's surgeons, but now they are. And so that being said, what are sort of the, innovative ways that you guys are commercializing the product, right? You guys are working with a good friend of mine who's a co-host of the MedTech Lever Show, which is Orette Davis. So what are some of the innovative ways that you guys are scaling and getting commercial traction?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll talk to the health. There's been learnings with both the health system side and the private practice side, because the idea was, kind of pursue both. We didn't know what would work best: health systems, private practices, and what kind of private practices and health systems: fee for service, value based, concierge. So, on the health system side, planning, years in advance, we had some things figured out, like you can operate the device without being connected to Wi-Fi. So I can't share publicly, but one of the largest value-based health systems in the country, we were able to sign a contract within weeks because we didn't have to go through the cybersecurity and IT process. Because our pitch to them was, it doesn't collect any PII, the product, and you don't even need to connect it to your Wi-Fi network for a 3-month pilot. And they're like, oh, great. Skip that 6-month process. Right. So I think there's, the ease of use of the device, not needing to be EMR integrated, not even needing to be connected to a Wi-Fi network. We tried to keep things as simple as possible, not just for the users themselves, but also for the health systems. So that's helped, but we have gotten bit for sure by the typical kind of health system contracting processes. So a couple have been able to move quickly, but most, we have 3 health systems in the country signed up right now, which is great in our first 5 months, I think. But most took, 6 to 9 months, and the few others in the queue are past 6 months as well. Because as soon as there's a contract involved, even if the device connectivity and other aspects are simple, primary care, if dermatology is in-house, they get roped in, some kind of public health or innovation role, someone from finance, it's kind of half dozen sign-offs, even for a very low cost product. It's $199 to $399 a month based on usage. We're kind of doing that smartphone-like model. So anyway, we've done what we can to try to shortcut some of that, but not nearly as streamlined as we hoped. So that's on the health system side. On the private practice side, we've been pleasantly surprised, honestly, with the efficiency and speed with which private practices are excited about this, are interested, and having minimal impact on workflow. In part, we realized because they are small, it's easy to access the device. One issue we've encountered with some of the health system rollouts is they need a bunch of devices. So, for example, one of the clinics and one of the divisions at the large health system that I can't name, but had 55 doctors on 2 floors using one device. So the device use, sure, is a minute. I can do a demo if you want. But going to get the device out of a little cage thing it was stored in and then putting it back, a couple doctors said, it depends on where you're based, but for most of the doctors, it took at least 2 or 3 minutes. So 2 or 3 minutes, use the device, dot phrasing the EMR, put the device back, you just doubled your consult time. Right. So that was, the learning and the learning was like, well, C-levels at point on the program, you got to buy more devices.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
You can't have like 50 to 100 exam rooms all sharing one device. So, but we had never done, no product like this has ever been rolled out at a health system anywhere in the world, right? So no one really knew. We figured they had a sense for what they made best and they were paying for it, so you couldn't like force them to buy a bunch more. But that was a clear learning. So that's what we're trying to figure out. Can we do like a family plan where it's, okay, you kind of buy the first device and then for additional devices at the same location, it's like a discount. But yeah, that or enable staff use, which there was kind of union issues. So we weren't able to immediately do that, right? They knew at the outset that'd be great. But at one of the locations, like, yeah, it'll take a year to get that figured out. Right. So the doctors, not clinical staff, the doctors had to spend several minutes just walking to get the device at a few of the locations. So anyway, any questions on that? Sorry, before.
No, I mean, I think that's a good problem to have, which is like your devices. I mean, one of the main metrics of success for any med device is, the utilization. And so if your device is getting utilized so much that it's like, hey, like we need to get more of this technology, that's a really good thing. I did not realize that you guys don't technically connect to the Wi-Fi or EMR, which is fantastic because honestly, like that adds so much more time to all deals. And so I think what's exciting about that is that
it can be. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Yeah, you have that option, right?
Yeah, that's what we'll tell people. Like, I mean, do you need your blood pressure cuff integrated? Right, like that gives a quantitative result that you write in somewhere. I mean, you don't need it. It's nice if it auto-populates, but you don't need to. Right?
Well, and the thing with your device that, again, that's why you're able to essentially scale through primary care is that it's just scanning the skin lesion and giving indication like, no, nothing to worry about, or yes, like this should be referred, and that's it, right? It's not giving anything else other than that.
Yeah. So it's effectively a 0 to 10 scale. 0 is like negative, right? And then the positive result, investigate further, is a scale of 1 to 10. So our pivotal study with over 1,000 patients, 22 study centers led by Mayo Clinic, showed the likelihood of malignancy range from 3% for a score of 0 to 61% for a score of 10. So we're not replacing biopsies, right? It's not a standalone diagnostic. It gives you that immediate quantitative malignancy risk likelihood or profile, basically. Yeah.
Right.
And from when you pick it up to when you get a result is 30 seconds. What was not a problem with our many dozens of private practices is the time to pick it up. That was the surprise of the health. It was like, hey, the time just to get this is so long. And the doctors were literally not allowed to ask a clinical staff colleague to go get the device. So that was like one of the learnings with one of the health systems.
That's fantastic. What about, how are you, because you don't have like a lot of salespeople, right? You do have a small commercial team. So how are you guys essentially commercializing the product? And that was kind of the exciting part. I wanted to have you back on to sort of get those learnings and everything.
So we just hit 5 months in a couple weeks ago. So got clearance in January. First device deliveries were in mid-May. So, some of the early focus was on health systems and kind of getting the ball rolling there. You're going to get some of those tech enthusiasts, right, on the innovation adoption curve that jump in. So that was exciting the first couple months. So our first few months, we were averaging about 10 new devices a month, and most were from private practices that were getting one device. We had one primary care chain that got one device for each of 5 clinics. But typically it's single practice and they get one clinic, or sorry, get one device. But yeah, what we really, the great unexpected surprise, right? On the health system front, there were some more challenges than expected, like I said. But honestly, I think given the traction, I don't think many medical device companies in their first few months are able to sign 3 large name, like you'd recognize the
No,
name.
I can
Yeah,
confirm.
in their
I
first few
work with,
months, like
on the agency we work with a lot of them, plus just like the experience that I've had in the industry. Yeah, like that's the first time I've heard of that, to be honest with you.
yeah. So I think especially now things are cycling up. So we're signing a couple new health systems a quarter. I think we're doing well on the health system side. It's just not, as quick and easy as we hoped, which we probably should have known that wouldn't be. But we were hoping with the low cost, you don't even need to connect to the Wi-Fi. Could we do like one a month? That was like the hope, and the answer is no, you can't. That's just the contracting
Well,
process. Are so
I mean, don't be so hard on yourself. I mean, look, considering that like you are in the very, very beginnings of your technology adoption cycle, which means that there's not a lot of those people to begin with. So finding them is really hard. And considering that you've had
that's the thing. Like, how do you get that
personally,
chief innovation officer, or that department chair of primary care that's your champion, right? So that's what we're working on that. But anyway, so you're right. So those are kind of, I started with the negatives. I often do that. On the positive front, what's been amazing to see, and we have 100% retention rate so far, because it's a 1-year contract, but they can unsubscribe at any point after 3 months. So that's part of our sale to small practices is, listen, a few $100, you start with the device. We know you don't want to spend thousands of dollars up front because you don't even know what it is. The product category didn't exist until this year, right? So kind of our pitch is, get them excited about the idea, right? Automated skin cancer detection device gives you an immediate assessment of malignancy risk, but we get you haven't used it before, it's a brand new product category. So sign up for a 1-year contract, but you return it at any point after 3 months. So really all we're asking them to commit to is a few $100 total for a 3-month, evaluation period, basically. And so we got really nervous in August, September, when we were kind of our first tranche of, 20, 30 devices were coming up on that period. And very happy to say now, 5.5 months in, that our dozens of private practice accounts are all still customers. So that's
good.
So we're excited about the 100% account retention. And the big, what recently and just beginning to scale up digital advertising. So digital ads, I mean, just saying the name, you're probably going to get an Instagram or Facebook ad. Meta's kind of been our best channel so far. We're closing 1 new account a day right now, which is pretty exciting. And so and I think what's even more exciting is that the board, I mean, literally our chairman fell out of his seat. He's like, well, what are the sales cycles like? I was like, well, about half the accounts are closing within a month and about a quarter are closing within a week. He's like, yeah, no, I get it. That's like the contracting phase for these practices. They can move pretty quick. What's the full sales cycle from their first interaction to sign an account? And I said, half of them are a month, a quarter of them are a week. And he was like, wait, what? That is crazy. About 10% are 1 day within 24 hours. They'll see an ad, say, oh yeah, I want to talk to a sales specialist. They'll get on a Zoom call, and they'll sign DocuSign all within 24 hours.
Yeah, and I think that's really fantastic. And again, so for context for the audience, I am an equity shareholder of Dermasensor. Me personally, the way that I interpret that, is that you guys have been commercial for how long now?
5 months.
5 months. Okay. Which is a nothing burger, to be honest with you. And so if you're getting these kind of results when you're still literally figuring it out and you don't know much, those are really, really good results, which gets me excited to think that, year 2 and 3, once you got things really cranking and you have actual year over year data, you're also testing ads right now. And again, these are cold ads. You don't have a KOL or any customer testimonials, nothing, right? And so when you have these other assets that take time to build out, that really supercharges ads. So me personally, I think it's a really good start. And again, I know that you're figuring out these numbers now. We just talked about it off air, but based on the lifetime value of your customer acquisition costs, like roughly what are you seeing on your return on ad spend?
I mean, our best guess right now is like 10 to 12x because we're assuming the average account will not, we know the average account we're receiving about $4,000 in revenue, and we expect on average the account to be an account for 3 years. That's, we had to come up with some
That's
kind of
great.
assumption.
So
So yeah, so okay, 12,000 or so in revenue, and are in Q2, and we're seeing ad spend to acquire one new account like very steadily drop. Are good. I don't know. Oh yeah, I think Jason Bellett, the co-founder of Echo Health. So he's been an advisor for a couple of years, and we just and he was like, yeah, I really don't think, because they obviously did a lot of direct to clinician marketing. They just hit 500,000 AI stethoscopes in use. He's like, I really don't think your CPL is gonna get much above 100, maybe 150. And
yeah,
that's
I agree. Your CAC will definitely go down over time.
and that's typically what we're seeing. And like sales processes, and we're pretty much there, but have got made a lot of improvements with our sales processes and HubSpot dashboards and tracking. And it's a connected device, right? We track device usage in real time, and so I think as we refine a lot, so we went from about 2,100, ad spend for one sale in Q2, 1,800 in Q3. So we expect that to get to 1,000 pretty quickly. So 12,000 divided by 100. 12,000 divided by 1,000.
Right, which is fantastic. So like for every dollar spent, like you're making 12, and then even if that goes down, which happens with all B2C companies and D2C companies, when that goes down, I mean, you still have a long ways to go, and you can still be 4xing your money, which is fantastic. Not to mention
technically though, it's still B2B.
Well,
so
it's B2B. It's B2B, but it's a B2C approach.
Correct. That's what's interesting. It's like we're marketing to clinicians that are partial or full owners in their practice and can make decisions quickly. But I don't know. I don't think we've signed a single contract with a doctor personally. It's like always with the practice.
Yeah. So like it's B2B or B2B2C, in a way. Yeah. But my point is that like what's interesting is that as you run this, what's going to happen with accounts that, let's say you hit that 12x ROAS, but they adopt the product and then quickly they say, oh, you know what, like this is becoming a pain. Even if it's one product that like 2 or 3 physicians have to share, like it's being passed around a lot, and it's much easier for them to be like, yeah, we're just going to order another one.
Yeah. That's what we hope. We haven't seen much of that yet, but some of them, or a lot of these doctors are really entrepreneurial, especially like the Medi-Spas and concierge clinics. They have multiple clinics, right? So they'll start with one at one clinic, often the one they work at. But a lot of our new, again, like most of our new customers are in the, because we've doubled our sales in the last couple months.
Hold up. You said something. Yeah. You said something that's news to me. So you guys are also selling the med spas?
Yeah, because our label
that makes sense. But
yeah, no, I'd say maybe a quarter of the customers right now are some kind of medical spa aesthetic slant, right? I mean, there's a lot of these kind of primary care, but also holistic health and aesthetics, and so it's sometimes kind of hard to classify certain practices. But yeah, no, a decent portion. And we've also been interested to see, because we're great partners with AFP. They have been an incredible partner, and a lot of our advisors over the years, like family medicine, right? Because they're very hands-on. They often in rural settings. But we've actually seen a lot more uptake with internal medicine, which we think there's 2 main reasons. A, there's 50% more internal medicine docs. I think it's like 200,000 versus 130, something like that. And then B, internal medicine are a lot more often in their own private practice. I'm not sure why. I think it's 30% versus 20%. So when you do the math, it's okay. There's almost twice as many of internal med docs in private practice. So we think that's why we're seeing more adopt. So internal medicine's the highest, followed by family med, distant second, and then it's kind of a smattering of other gynecology. There's some dermatology that's off label, but some they hear about it like, oh, we're interested, we want to buy one, and have our NPs and PAs who have zero background in dermatology improve their skin lesion assessment and stuff. So yeah, we don't market to dermatologists for dermatologist use, but we've had some customers.
Interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting also to see like on the internal medicine front, because I do, and again, this is very anecdotal, but I do know like if somebody has a family, like I'm making this up as an example, but like if somebody has a family history of heart disease, oftentimes they just skip having a regular like family practice primary care doctor, and their primary care ends up being a cardiologist, right?
Yeah.
And so what
Well,
I'm wondering,
so a lot of young women are like that with gynecology.
with gynecologists, right? So like,
Exactly.
so for women it would be gynecologists, but for men, what I'm curious is like, if in the data, I don't know how you guys would find this, but again, with like the LLMs and AI today, you can probably put it to task where you figure out like what's a comorbidity with skin cancer lesion, and then
Yeah.
mapping that comorbidity to the internal medicine physician that patient might be going to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, they're immune compromised, a lot of sun exposure. There's a lot of family history, but yeah, no, that'd be interesting to try to figure out. Yeah, so one thing, I think investors, rightfully, a lot of concerns prior to the last 2 months was cost of sales. Like, how do you scale in primary care, right? Like, health systems are really tough, and they can't. It's hard. Sometimes primary care can't really make their own purchasing decisions independently, like specialists can. And what are you going to hire 200 sales reps to go door knocking? Like, and I kept pushing this, like, we could do, have a lot of money in digital marketing, worked really well for Butterfly, for Echo, but there's a lot of skepticism because they're like, everyone knows what a stethoscope and an ultrasound is already, right? Like a handheld version of an ultrasound, great. Like, I get it. And there's reimbursement code. Stethoscope, Echo's, much lower cost, not recurring payment. And people already know the stethoscope is applying AI to the sounds. Like, okay, that I get it. No one knows what an automated skin cancer detection. But so, we had this theory. We're like, the clinical need is so clear. I've had people for 8 years, so I'm like, oh, that's such a great idea. I'm surprised no one's ever done this, right? Like, it's such well, no one did it because it's very hard to do, but it's such an intuitive product, right? Like a point and click device that gives you immediate risk for skin cancer. It makes a lot of sense intuitively. So I think that's why we've been able to be successful with the digital marketing approach, even though a lot of VCs and bankers were quite skeptical. Like, without your own CPT code and a brand new product category, no way you're going to be able to just spend money on digital ads and sell medical devices. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it could work. So yeah, no. So we're excited that, and again, this is adding one new account a day, and we just have 3 sales FTEs dedicated to that, and they're covering some health system
And
work.
no, I know. I was gonna say I love it, and again, like selfishly, this is why, like, I'm a big fan of you guys. Is that this is also proving out the model that I always felt should be the model in medtech, which is considering the complexity of the sale these days and adoption. It just doesn't make sense. I think there was I'll defend it a little bit. There was a time where it made sense to raise money, and then you hire like 10, 15, 20 reps who had a Rolodex of customers, and then go, and those relationships are like, oh yeah, like, yeah, this new tech,
Yeah,
I'll
especially
check
for
it out.
specialties, right?
Yeah, but even with specialties, like, just that model just does not work. And I mean, like, look, like, you hire 10 salespeople, like, now you're going to be a little over $1 million in salaries, right?
Yeah.
Plus healthcare benefits. You have and you run an experiment for a year to see if it works, and half of them are going to get let go, if not more. And you haven't even laid down any foundation or learnings, right? I mean, some
Yeah.
people like to pretend they do, but like, what's going to happen on your exit interview? They're going to like tell you what they've learned, versus like what you're doing, which is using digital marketing to scale your efforts, and then having 3 salespeople. It just makes it's the model that every single company should be doing, in my opinion.
I just caught up with our head of sales. We just caught up today, and I used the metaphor Moneyball, and she's like, "Yeah, I love that movie." I was like, yeah, "It's so great." Like, that's what it. I think a lot of the medtech sales process, like you described, right, in that movie or that book, whichever one you like. Yeah, the old traditional approach, like,
It's
that's
the
what you just.
traditional approach.
Yeah, but
Versus,
we're like,
which is
work
just
hard,
looking at the numbers and be like,
work
we
hard
need him to
count.
get him. We need him to get. He gets on base, right?
Yeah, it's on base. Like work hard counting, right? We're like number cruncher, which is great because that's more my background anyway, being a econ engineer turned business analytics guy. So no, it's awesome that, the digital marketing world, not that I know a lot about it, so we're quickly beefing, our marketing folks do, and like you said, Aura does. But the marketing side and all the HubSpot analytics we can run is awesome. We just had, so our fourth person in a sales role just started 2 weeks ago, manager of inside sales. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to try digging up all these leads that have gone cold, stagnant leads, we call them, right? Like they initially filled out a form saying, hey, I'm interested. Our sales folks reached out a couple times. They're now part of the drip campaigns, like newsletters and stuff. But, we have hundreds of them, right? Because we're adding, tens of new leads every week. And we're going to be at like 1,000 new sales leads a month by the end of Q1. What happens to all those ones that you can't convert in the first few weeks? So he's like, I'm going to do email outreach and start calling the practices, right? Like, hey, you expressed interest, blah, blah. So he's 2 weeks in, he's already sold 2 devices to prior leads, right? So we realized, like, I talked to our head of sales. I'm like, we should get a couple people that like just graduated college and want a sales job at a cool startup, and literally like not even do new sale, cold outreach.
Not even, you know what? Here,
like literally they're just following up with people that the more senior folks couldn't close quickly, and they're just following up trying to get people, because we're going to be kicking off 1,000 leads a month that go, 100 convert, the other 1,000 don't convert. Like, what's the follow up?
You don't even have to do that. I mean, look, like there's I'm using it for my own company, but there's a lot of agencies that have access to really, really good talent you wouldn't normally find on Upwork or anything else, that are overseas, that work US hours and everything, and they like,
yeah, that's a good point.
And phenomenal work ethic, and they just get things done. I've been super happy, so I'm happy to make an intro to the agency that I use. But yeah, no, I completely agree. So like there's all these ways that from a commercial standpoint that you can unlock value without spending a bunch of money, right? But I think more importantly, like just bring the right talent and tools and technology to it to solve for that problem, which is what you guys are doing.
Yeah. No, and on the point of technology and tools, I think, and honestly, I should have, I mean, it's just, there's some of these, just kind of to your point about traditional medtech models and approaches, it's, you can only question so many things as an entrepreneur and innovate in so many areas, right? So some things you just got to listen to the consultants and the $1,000 an hour lawyers around you. Like, okay, that's how it's done and that's how we'll do it. But, here's all the other areas we have to innovate and do new stuff. And so one of those was coding, right? Everyone's like, okay, Cat 3 to Cat 1. And, we had a full Cat 3 code application drafted. We're going to submit it. We got feedback from society.
For the audiences, especially the investors who are new to this, can you tell them what the difference between a Cat 3 and Cat 1 code? And we're talking about medical code, by the way, not medical codes to get paid, not coding like in software.
Yeah, so Cat 3 and Cat 1 codes, so they're CPT codes, which are created by the AMA. Category 1 codes are what most doctors and customers are familiar with, which is, like an ultrasound code. You bill for, hey, I used an ultrasound to capture images. I'm, billing insurance I think it's around $60. And so the insurance, that's a obviously commonly used code, and they pay the doctor back $60, right? So Cat 1 codes are ones that have, they've been in use, they've gone in front of AMA. It's called the RUC process. So it's a committee that reviews it and decides, all right, what's the practice expense of the doctors? What's the physician time involved? All this different stuff. What's the expenses like disinfectant wipes and things like that? And what are we reimbursing for the use? And they revisit the pricing a fair amount. I think it's once a year. I'm not sure. So you start with what's called a Category 3 code, which is often considered an investigational code. It's a T code. It has a T in it for tracking. So the idea is you start with this code to track utilization of your new device, your new procedure. The issue is, why would doctors bother billing this code if it's not yet reimbursed by Medicare, Medicaid, and commercial payers, right? So often you get this code, you try to get certain progressive commercial payers to reimburse it. You try to get your early adopters to start billing it, to try to pressure commercial payers to start billing it, paying it. So it's kind of this chicken and the egg thing. And that's often the first couple of years. And that's, Stanford published that paper recently, right? 5.4 years on average to get, I forget how they define like meaningful reimbursement, but it was like some kind of reimbursement. So that's what, and speaking with some of our reimbursement folks, and they're like, well, yeah, but, so kind of we're revisiting that now, kind of Cat 3 or, kind of what's our plan now? Because I was like, I don't know, like such a unique product. Let's see what happens. I don't want to like wed ourselves to Cat 3 code. And now we're like, do we need a Cat 3? Why don't we just go straight to Cat 1 code? And they're like, well, you can't do that, I was like, why not? They're like, well, because you have to show utilization. Like, how do you show payers you're using it? I was like, well, we already have a customer account list, nearly 100 accounts. We'll be at 500 in like 3 or 4 months. So is that not enough? Like, I thought you only need 200 doctors or something. And like, oh yeah, no, that'll be like 1,000, 2,000 doctors. I was like, okay. They're like, but how do you show utilization? How often it's being used? Because that's why you need a Cat 3 code, to show utilization. I'm like, what are you talking? We have a connected device. Like, we track utilization in real time. I can literally open a browser on a computer and show you the dozen device uses a day right now. They're like, oh, yeah, maybe you don't need a Cat 3 code, right? So I think these are, with like the new connected devices and some of these new capabilities, you don't necessarily have to follow in those same footsteps, right? It's still, could still be challenges, or, you don't have the same level of documentation, and, that's some of the stuff we're working through, but, we don't. So there's been a couple areas where, like you said, that the traditional medtech process, we don't really need to follow, but it makes sense. We're not a traditional medtech device. I think we're like right in the middle of 4 different areas, and investors have said, you're not really medtech, you're not diagnostics, you're not screening, and you're not digital health. You're like right in the middle of all of those. Right.
I would agree with that. No, I would definitely agree with that. Well, it's been really exciting kind of like hearing about all this. I'm wondering the year's sort of wrapping up. And so for clinicians or investors, where, do you guys have any conferences you've picked out in 2025 that you're going to be at physically, whether exhibiting or just you yourself will be there? Where can they look you up?
I always go to JPM. I'm sure, trying to think of the next couple of months. Just got back from HLTH a week ago. That was a lot of fun, exhausting, but fun. JP Morgan, and I'm trying to think what's the one LSI. I'm sure I'll
end up Dana Point. Yeah.
That's where caught up with you. Well, I've seen you a couple times, but a few months ago. That's probably pretty much it. And wrapping up our Series B financing here, and got some exciting folks involved, the strategic and a couple, well-known funds. And so, so excited to get that. I'm not going into specifics on purpose, but getting that wrapped up here. And a lot going on. It's a busy Q4.
Fantastic. Well, Cody, I'm really excited for all the growth, and thanks for being willing to kind of come on and share these learnings. Hopefully we'll inspire other medtech companies to kind of try this approach. For those who are interested, if you're an investor or clinicians, you want to just, learn more about the company, go to the website. That's Dermasensor. That's DERM as in dermatology. So Dermasensor, ASENSOR.com. And check them out there. So that being said, I'm your host, Omar Khatib. Cody, thanks for joining the show.
Thanks for having me, Omar.
Yeah, I'll see you again in Miami soon.
Sounds good. Bye.
All right. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to do me a big favor and join so many other people who have helped grow this podcast, take a second and look below. If you're on Apple, give us 5 stars and write a short review. If you're on Spotify, just give us 5 stars. And if you're on YouTube, hit the like button. And most importantly, if you can, subscribe. We release so many different episodes that you may miss. Be sure to subscribe and turn your notifications on. You get extra points with me if you subscribe across all 3 channels. Thank you so much. And if you felt like this episode helped you, send this to somebody who'd really enjoy and appreciate it. Share and spread the love. We'll see you all next time.